I think it'll be all right with going from Brown. When it comes to Brown and Smith, I think it's going to be okay, because I think when you look at what Smith's pedigree, when he was coming through up playing with Alabama, he had to deal with, was it 4 other first round talent
Good
wide
point.
receivers. So he gotten used to that. So I think he's okay with it. When it came to Rager, you saw when you're at TCU, he was the guy, at least wide receiver wise, and we kept hearing the things about, oh wow, the TCU quarterback wasn't getting the ball, but he's still a great talent. He's still a great talent, and yeah, I think it has a lot to do with the player. I think it has a lot to do with the confidence of the player, and I think DeVonta Smith is a more confident player.
Yeah, a Waiting Wednesday edition here on Birds 365. What are we waiting for? Camp, preseason, getting all the way to day 123 from now, which is the second Sunday of September, first Sunday of the season for the Philadelphia Eagles. How are we going to work our way through the wait? Get opinions from guys like Chris Franklin, who's good enough to hop on board with us from NJ.com. Been a couple of weeks, Mr. Franklin. I don't believe we've had you on since the Eagles had their draft. I know we probably get a little too caught up in this, but A+ through F draft, which includes the addition of a key veteran wide receiver. What kind of grade would you give the Birds for the draft and the accompanying deals that they made with it?
I think everything overall, I'd probably give it a B+. I think it's a solid B+. I think you got a defensive tackle now in Jordan Davis that you can actually, clear out the linebackers. I like the move for AJ Brown a lot. Juergens, I like a lot. I thought maybe they didn't have to, select them at there. I thought they could have fallen back a few spots, but overall, looking for what they were able to accomplish with the assets that they all had, I can't fault them with that. I thought they did a good, decent job with that.
Certainly day one. So I guess if I want to play devil's advocate, Chris, I have to look at the loss of volume, because you start the process with 10 picks, you end up with 5 picks. And look, you can't address everything when you have 5 picks. So as exciting as it is to have Jordan Davis and AJ Brown, as you mentioned, you still look at the secondary. And if the Eagles had to play today, which Howie Roseman will say today on JAKIB Media, another drop. We don't have to play a game today, but if they did, Zach McPherson is your starting outside corner. Marcus Epps is one of your starting safeties. Can that sustain itself to week one, or the Eagles have to make upgrades?
First, I want to know, did they offer you guys any contracts yet? Because they've been recently in the running for everybody else. You hear the Eagles linked to them, but I think when you look at Epps, I think they have a lot more confidence, I think, you do in both those positions. I think Epps is a solid player who I think has a better shot of actually being a better contributor than maybe Zach McPherson at this point. McPherson, I know he was a rookie last year. He was always a 4th-round pick, but just looking at some of the ways that he was, like, when he dropped back into coverage and looking at little things, I had a few questions, and it's a very, very, I'm a little worried, concerned about that. I also thought, like, especially it's very telling that they were looking at a corner in that 5th round when they traded back after Tariq Woolley was drafted by the Seahawks, and they traded back. It was like, well, they told their hand. I guess you could tell, like, who they really were looking at that deep. And I think when you look at, I have no problem with the assets they gave up to trade to get Brown, to move up to get Davis. Would have been nice to see, like, hey, you know what, you maybe use that 7th-round pick to maybe move up. Yeah, but it's a 7th-round pick, so it's like, all right, maybe it'll get you a spot up. But I'm concerned going. Put it nicely, I'll put a little concerned going into this week one with those two spots.
And James Bradbury was released by the Giants yesterday. John and I talked about him plenty on yesterday's Birds. We both agree he'd be a very good addition for the Giants. I think I'm a little bit more pushy when I say, I think the Eagles should go to a specific link to get him. John likes a player, but doesn't think the Eagles are going to do what it takes to get him done. What kind of deal do you think Bradbury is going to get on the open market? And will that be a deal after he signed with someone else that we say, the Eagles should have gone to those limits?
I think somebody might offer him 12. I really think so, because I think he's that good of a player. I think it's going to be, and it's going to be it's probably gonna be a 1-year deal anyway with them. But look at the Eagles. I think over the cap had on last I saw like 10.1 million, which is out the Eagles price range. And I know they can do some things like add voided years to the end of the contract and try to be creative in that way to make sure he fits under the cap. But he's going to get a lot. I think he's going to get a lot of money. I think he's a good fit for the Eagles, given what they did in the past. I mean, when it comes to man, he's better, I think, than he's better than what a lot of other guys they have competing for that second spot opposite Slay and also better DeVonta Maddox. But I think he fits best in zone too. I think he was Pro Football Focus had him as a 6th ranked player in coverage, like for players who played at least.
Yeah, he's a great zone corner. Great,
it fits
zone
perfectly.
corner.
Yeah, so if looking what the Eagles might do, if you look at Gannon's track record last year, it fits perfectly.
You know, it's interesting, Chris, because we've seen this a lot, and guys get new players in, rookie players, and they get excited. And, you know, the Eagles seem really excited about their young cornerback situation and people that haven't played, not only Zach, but also Tate Gowan and Kerry Benson and Mac McCain. We're still hoping to get Mac on this show, so it's Mac, and Mac, but man,
it'd be great. Oh, the Mac's thrown around would be great.
Well, we have Tim McManus, so occasionally we get the Mac, and Mac.
Quad Max, yes, do it. You had to do it.
We got Glenn Mac now joining us.
Yeah,
on Friday.
That's
so
right.
Mac and Mac attack on Friday.
The original Mac and Mac. And I'm just the other guy. But they also signed a bunch of undrafted kids at corner, and they gave one pretty significant money for an undrafted free agent, and Mario Goodrich, and Josh Jobs from Alabama, so everybody kind of knows him, and Josh Blackwell. So they have like 1,000 darts to throw at the board, and maybe one of them hits. But how would you know it when you don't do anything in the off season, Chris? Rookie camps scale back to 2 days, right? There's no team drills. There's no nothing. Back in the day, you could stand out. How do you stand out? How do they know? How do they figure out these guys can play before they hit the panic button and say, I need Trey Waynes into your stat? How did they figure it out?
I wonder if it's one of those things where they're like, when they're working out on the field and they go, let's just throw around just to see what would happen one-on-one here. And hey, Josh, why don't you wink, go cover this guy? And that's the only way you can do it. It's too many question marks when it comes to a bunch of these guys. And until they get to like even OTAs, like this, they're pretty much going to have to put a lot of faith in 7-on-7s and 7-on-7s for the most part.
Yeah, no 11-on-11s, just 7-on-7s. Yeah.
And when you look at these receivers, like it's going to be fun to watch them against DeVonta Smith and AJ Brown, but I just look at those corners, everybody in that mix. I seriously wouldn't be surprised if Josh Blackwell's the guy that emerges out of there. I liked his game when he was with Duke. Josh Jobe, I know he's still recovering from that foot injury, but when he's on, he's on. Goodrich, he could be. He's the one they gave all that guaranteed money to, and he fits the zone a little bit better than I think the other two do. But I don't know. It's looking when he was when we saw him like doing some of those workouts, he looked a little stiff. I don't know if it's just a matter of he hadn't played in a while. He was trying to loosen up, but it's a bunch of question marks against these guys, and you feel more apt to just go with the veteran and just cut bait with some of the younger ones, because it's gonna be scary when you have to go into the regular season and you see, okay, go ahead and line up against CeeDee Lamb, and teams are going to pick them apart. The key teams are going to say, okay, this guy's over here. All right, we're just going to attack them.
Well, week 2, Monday Night Football, we know Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen are coming in. So I don't know who they're going to play week 1, but I'm guessing Chicago. But and that might be a little bit easier. But you're going to get those corners, if they're throwing them out there, they're going to get tested pretty early.
Yeah, and it's you better hope they pass soon, because I can almost see him right now too. Okay, especially got a younger guy, they're going to try to confuse the heck out of him now and put a 1-on-1 and make them truly read stuff. The Eagles are setting themselves up. They have all these other pieces set up, and you just look right there and go, okay, you know the cornerback. It's like you know the end of the story almost coming into it. You can see it in a playoff game. You can see it halfway through the season. The reason that the Eagles defense, if they fail, is going to be because of that other part of the other cornerback. I really, truly believe it.
All right, Chris, let me jump over to the other side of the ball and the guy the corners have to cover, and that's the wide receivers. And this will probably annoy you. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm just saying there's a potential concern here. Last 2 years ago, the Eagles' first-round draft pick, Jalen Reagor, comes in as a mediocre rookie year. Is that fair? Can I say his rookie year was mediocre at best for Jalen Reagor?
I think best, you're being kind.
Nice. At best.
Okay. So be nice and mediocre. Yeah. Good. They go out and draft in the first round the Heisman Trophy winning wide receiver DeVonta Smith. So Jalen Reagor's sitting there going, damn, I thought they liked me. Now they go out and get a Heisman Trophy. I'm dropping down the depth chart. And he came back and had if he had a mediocre rookie year, a less than mediocre sophomore year. How much of that was contributed to by the fact that they brought in an upgrade in front of him? Because the Eagles have kind of done that again this year. As big a DeVonta Smith fan as I am, John is, we all should be. They are paying their new wide receiver $25 million per year. McMullen and I both have him ranked just outside the top 10, 11th or 12th, somewhere thereabouts. Some wide receivers in the league. DeVonta Smith isn't there yet. Last year, when someone was brought in above their number one wide receiver, he actually went backwards. Can DeVonta Smith use it as motivation, get a little ticked off that they felt they needed another wide receiver? How's that wide receiver room going to play between 1 and 1A?
I think it'll be all right going from Brown. When it comes to Brown and Smith, I think it's going to be okay, because I think when you look at what Smith's pedigree, when he was coming through up playing with Alabama, he had to deal with, was it 4 other first round talent wide receivers. So he gotten used to that. So I think he's okay with it. When it came to Reagor, you saw year TCU, he was the guy, at least wide receiver wise, and we kept hearing the things about, oh, wow, the TCU quarterback wasn't getting the ball, but he's still a great talent. And yeah, I think it has a lot to do with the player. I think it has a lot to do with the confidence of the player. And I think DeVonta Smith is a more confident player when you look at just overall, and a more accomplished player as well, too. I think he's just overall just a better wide receiver than Jalen Reagor. And I think when you look at his, just like, again, like reiterate, if you look at his background, I think he won't be fazed by it one bit. And I think he and Brown are going to work in tandem and actually do pretty well. I think he's going to do well.
I kind of look at it a different way, but I'll sort of take Jody's baton and put it this way. To me, it's not about AJ and DeVonta coexisting. I think they'll be fine, but receivers want the football, and I'll throw Dallas Goedert in this mix as well. Are there going to be enough targets to keep these guys happy? And is that more about Jalen Hurts or Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen?
I think it's a combination of making them happy. It's going to have to be. I look at more of the coaching staff and Hurts, because I think I wouldn't be surprised if they try to do a lot more like screens, a lot more short passes, because
no more bubble screens, Chris.
I think I know it's the old. It's like, oh, okay, what do you know? 2 yards and go. What do you know? 3 yards and go now. But the only reason why I think that is because I think that's what's going to accomplish two things. It's going to get Hurts in the rhythm earlier, and also you're going to allow those wide receivers to use their physical abilities a lot more too. So, and it'll give them the targets, even though it's artificially inflated by doing that. It'll give them the targets, so that way they can say, oh, well, look at that. We got you the ball. We try to throw the ball this way, try to get you involved in the offense. The person I'd probably be looking at is like, hey, you know what? Am I still going to get my touches as Miles Sanders? And because not only do you have that, they got to make sure that passing attack is like, hey, guys, I still want to run the ball a little bit. What's going on here? So,
especially in the contract year. Yeah.
You got all these wide receivers and passing attacks.
Like John likes to state, Chris, it's right now it's way too early to be worried about the running game. In April, nobody worries about the running game. Nobody knows actually Miles show up and someone lines up behind the quarterback and go, oh yeah, we got running backs too. We got to give them the ball. We got to figure out how to stop them. Yeah, nobody worries about running backs in April, not at this stage. of the year.
Don't you see the 3 yards in the cloud of dust just rising up behind you guys when it happens?
It was out of need this year that the Eagles ran the ball as much as they did. We believe they're going to pass the ball that much more this year. And Miles Sanders touches, if he stays healthy, will probably be about the same. Anybody else's touches? And when we say touches, that of course means passing. It's not quite a bubble screen, but it's throwing the ball out of the backfield. A couple of people we've had on the last couple of months have sung the praise of Kenny Gainwell, that this could be, quote unquote, maybe a breakout year for Kenneth Gainwell. You buying into that? You think Gainwell takes a major step up this year?
I'd probably go Scott. I think Boston Scott might be the guy. I truly believe. I think Gainwell's nice. I think he's pretty much going to be. It's going to be how they use him, because pretty much you saw Gainwell on the field, you're like, well, either it's going to be outside run, or if it's going to be a jet sweep, or it's going to be a pass to him. But he got predictable. I look at it when I see Scott, I see a guy who can still do all that stuff, but also effectively run not only outside, but also inside as well, too, especially around that goal line area, because he had 7 touchdowns last year within the goal line. So I look at his game. I look at the fact they don't have a bona fide number 2 running back. And I think when you couple in his experience, when you couple in what his production is able to do, I think he fills in nicely in that running back 2 spot. And I think he's the one that probably may take away a little bit, a few Sanders touches here and there, considering that you don't know what you have long term. And knowing what you have with Sanders and his injury history, Scott was the first one in. So I think he's the one that might be have a little impact of a good impact here too.
All right, it is May, but we've gone down this rabbit hole, so I'm going to keep going down it, Chris. You're right. There is no defined running back 2. We talked about that volume, 10 picks turning into 5 picks. So running back is another position we all said, well, they're going to take a running back on day 3. But they couldn't, because they gave up those late round picks. They did sign Kennedy Brooks from Oklahoma as an undrafted kid. Jordan Howard is an interesting one. I think he's some kind of experiment. I think every number on his phone is blocked, except from Philadelphia, except from 215, 610. Nobody calls Jordan Howard. Nobody cares about Jordan Howard, but he's been really important for this team over the years when healthy, and he hasn't been healthy a lot, which factors into it as well. It's August. Are the Eagles going to be calling Jordan Howard? Nobody else is. We know that, so they can wait.
I think they do, and I think he's on a practice squad, and I think he serves the same role he was. He's going to be like your setup guy that you have in the bullpen. He's like, all right, you're wait till a little bit. In do we need him yet? Oh, this game was week 5, week 6. Yeah, I guess we can bring him up now, use him for a couple games, and bring him back that way. I think the Eagles know. I think the Eagles know that as well too. There's not this big market, so they know they have him there.
In fact, he might be in the Novacare complex in the back in glass, encased in glass, because nobody else is calling him. Poor guy.
It's like one of those spam calls going on with everybody else. Oh, it's the Eagles. Oh, hey, what's up? We got. Oh, sorry, it's not Howie. Okay.
And most of these guys are okay with it because they won't have to show up till camp. Maybe he's even got the Eagle number blocked until late August.
Yeah,
and then he'll take the block off and go, oh, you guys calling? Okay, yeah, I'll show up. I'm glad I didn't have to go through all those stinking preseason games. All right, speaking of practice squad, I have in front of me the Eagles depth chart. At the tight end position, Dallas Goedert, Jack Stoll, Tyree Jackson, drafted Greg Calcaterra, Richard Rodgers still here on the 90-man roster. Richard Rodgers, I love him. Noah Tagawa and J.J. Arcega-White, the converted former wide receiver. I'll add that up. That's 7 there, Chris Franklin. They're not keeping 7 tight ends on the regular roster, even if they have 3 on the practice.
I don't know. With that much talent, you might have to carve out 7 spots, Jody. For that,
I'll wager anything you want, Johnny Mac. There will not be 7 tight ends on it. As much as they used it last year. They don't want to use it that much this year. They don't want to play 21. There's no way 7 guys are hanging around. How many of these guys aren't even going to be on the practice squad? Who are the tight ends that shouldn't be making September plans to be in the city of brotherly shove?
I like that one. I like that. If I had to go, we definitely know Goddard's one. I think Calcaterra is going to be tight end too. I think we just look at natural tight ends and everything else that route running as much as they feel like they're going to passing. I think he's 2. I wouldn't be surprised if Stoller is number 3. Then when you look at practice squad, I think Rich Rogers is the one, and I think JJ Arcega-Whiteside sneaks in because I think nobody else is going to do that. And figuring that he
get
can
him on there,
fill in a wide receiver and a tight end, he can play both of them. He sneaks on there, and then Rich Rod will be sitting next to Jordan Howard, going, "Hey, you get a call yet?" No, I didn't get it either. So they'll be having that going back and forth. But
yeah,
it's a unique position, and I would have said Tyree Jackson. Thing is, you just don't know now how he's going to recover with that knee. He's still learning the position, and he's still learning how to block as well too. So it's those 3 things. Maybe they can sneak him on, but I think somebody might take a chance with him as well too. But
yeah, that's
I don't see him carrying 4.
Underreported needs for the Eagles, and they were able to draft Grant Calcaterra, and we'll see. But they need a tight end too because Jack Stoll was all right. Good job as a blocker, but he's not going to scare anybody catching the football. And I think the plan was, all right, Tyree's going to get an off season. He's got so much talent, but now he doesn't have an off season. He's rehabbing from the torn ACL. So that's a position to keep an eye on. Here's one nobody talks about, Chris, special teams. And by special teams, other than Jake Elliott, I'll put Jake off to the side, and Rick Lovato as well. We'll give some long snapper love. Aaron Cepas was bad at the end of last season, but that's what everyone focuses on. The coverage was bad. The returns were bad. They need returners. They need coverage guys. They need a punter, even though they didn't bring a punter in. Am I being an alarmist, or how do you see that special teams shaking out for Michael Clay?
I was a little worried about. I was surprised they didn't even bring one in on the for rookie camp. I really thought
not even a tryout guy.
Yeah, because I think that when you look at it, like Sipas had a dead leg at the end. It really did because he wasn't getting enough lift on there. As for the return game, they really need to overhaul that big time. And I know they brought in Devin Alley. I really liked Britton Covey. I really think that looking back when he was playing at Utah, the way he quickly finds the hole, finds that little breaking coverage, plants a foot, and just goes upfield north and south and doesn't try to go lateral, trying to make plays, running 30 yards across the field when you're only picking up, it's a net 5. Like, I think that the return game is for me, I think it's the biggest need overall. Sure, I think every general manager, coach goes, okay, if we're concerned about the punter, okay, our offense is not doing well, so what the heck is going on? But it's an important aspect of the game. But I think the return game is going to be important. And I think that's where you look at Rager, you look at Covey. Those are 2 guys. I think that's if Rager is a little bit more sure-handed on his punt returns, I think that's how he stays on his roster. If not, and Covey starts to wow people in those preseason games, I think he takes that job.
Yeah, let me follow up where John went for both you guys. Michael Clay, the special teams coordinator, at least a year into me, doesn't have a lot of sway. Doesn't have a lot of swag because you always hear about, we specifically drafted this guy, undrafted free, specifically brought him in because he's an outstanding special teams player. One guy, Kyron Johnson, that they said that about, that the Eagles drafted. Oh, he's a great special team. He'll be contributing on special teams. Usually get more than that from the draft on. That hasn't been the case. Is that a Sirianni thing that he says Clay make chicken out of chicken, you know what? That they haven't put specific resources into that? Do we read into it that this overall team, as guided by the head coach, is always going to play special teams as a 3rd, 4th, or 5th hit?
I think there's a little bit of that. I mean, I still think they have a couple pieces. I think you look at Sean Bradley. I still think you look at Elijah Riley. I think they have some veterans on that squad that I think they still believe very highly in. Well, I'm sorry, that's Elijah Riley. What am I talking about? I'm still
Elijah
thinking
Riley, I was
but I think, I was like, I was still
Jody's
stuck in the first one.
Jets. Yeah.
Yeah. But I look at, I think Epps as well, too. I think he's still going to play a lot when it comes on there as well, even though he's going to be starting like Malcolm Jenkins used to do. So I think they look at the veterans that they currently have on the roster, guys who think still contribute. That's playing, I think, a little bit of fire in case there's an injury. You're risking them a little bit more. I don't know if I think it's more of a sway. I don't think it's so much of a sway as part of just like, okay, we're just going to try to get the most out we can. We have a lot of young guys on this roster who has enough athleticism to do that, and I think they're able to fill it that way. So I don't think I'm too worried about that aspect, but I think it's just some concern though.
Yeah, I would just add that they only had 5 picks and they used one on a special teams player. I think that is some sway. Because when people were talking about Kyron Johnson, they're all saying, what is he, an off-ball linebacker, an edge rusher? He's a special teams player, pure. I mean, he's going to be the Chris Maragos, the Brian Brayman. They're not drafting him to rush the passer, to be an off-ball linebacker. They're drafting him to be that special teams player they had with Rudy Ford, who nobody cares about. But once he left, you said, wow, Rudy was stinking good when he was out there. It's another guy who was always hurt. But so that to me, but the punter is strange to me. So they must have some knowledge about Aaron Cepas that we don't have. I can't explain it any other way, Chris, because you're right. Looked like his leg was dead. So is that just they said we figured it out from a sports science standpoint? Because he was really good in the first half of the season and then really bad. Are they competent in Aaron Cepas? So this is this weird, they can't get a punter in here for some reason, which I find very hard to believe.
Well, the market, I think, is a little bit out there as well, too. I think I think Colquitt was the other guy I saw that's out there and might be worth a salt, but right now I'm not even doing that. I think it's probably one of those things like they try to rest him a little bit more through a couple of weeks. Maybe he doesn't kick as much during training camp to try to save him. And then also you figure that's another part of the field goal operation. I mean, Jake Elliott could be comfortable with him. Jake Elliott had his best season with Cepas holding. So
that's a big thing
you change two things. Yeah. You change two operations to try to fit one just to try to get maybe 5 extra yards, which is important sometimes. But I think it's going to be a little bit more of management of how much time he uses and how much time he takes to try to save him for later.
All right, let me go into a deep dive here, and it's probably because it's May. This is probably taking it too far, but that's what we do here on Birds 365.
We're talking about special teams, of course.
That's where I'm going. I'm dragging special teams into roster construction for the Philadelphia Eagles, which again, maybe too narrow focus, but I'm going there anyway. The young bloods. We got 2 Johnsons and a Jackson. You got Tyron, who Johnny Mack is singing his praises, and he's going to be the best Eagles special team player over the last couple of years. And then you've got the 2 guys that the Eagles drafted last year. So you're talking about 3 draft picks, not undrafted free agents, 3 draft picks. I can't see them carrying all 3 on next year's 53. Can you? You're going to have to pick 2 out of the 3. The other guy is going to have to go practice squad. And if they go practice squad, will either of those 2, the one guy who is the odd man out, I ask you first to predict the roster for me and say who's going to be that odd man out. And is that kind of guy going to be the guy who can get through to a practice squad without being picked off by another team?
I think Teron Jackson would be the odd man out, but I think he sneaks through the practice squad that way, if that makes sense. I know edge rushers are tougher to sneak on, especially you have a lot of they're tougher to find, especially, and he has some talent. But I look at what other needs they have in there. I think linebacker, I think is given what they have available right now for. I think Kyron. I look at him as a Sam. I think Patrick Johnson's actually, you know what? See, Patrick Johnson, I see Kyron. I see playing similar roles and playing that Sam, playing that right behind Hassan Reddick.
Right? Can you have both Johnsons on the roster?
I think they do. I think it's more Teron, especially if they play a little bit more 3-4. I think he's a guy that you could try to say, hey, Kyron, try to learn the weak side as well as the strong side. Even though you're more strong side, try to learn the weak as well too. We'll find a spot for you. Patrick Johnson, I think, was a good rusher with Tulane, but he was a decent special teamers. Boy, I look at what of physical abilities and what the other two guys can bring you potentially in the future, I think they project a little bit more than they do with, let's say, Patrick Johnson does.
So Teron, we went Teron Jackson. I guess I would have to go if I had to pick one of those three to go for what you would say, Chris. Do you really need two backup Sam linebackers that don't play that often? So I'm going to go Kyron. Special teams keeps him over Patrick, but I think they'll keep all three. They'll find a way.
Yeah.
They'll find a way. I think they like all three players, and new coaching staffs and draft picks, and they like to give those guys a little bit of an extra opportunity. Enough special teams though. Chris Franklin at C Franklin News. Read them at nj.com. By the way, the No Huddle show now. No Mike K. It's Les Bowen and Chris Franklin. How about that? The legendary Les Bowen and the even more legendary Chris Franklin.
Yeah, right. So too far away. I'm the Patrick Johnson level right now. This Eagle right now. I'm trying to get a little bit higher that one, but but it's fun working with Les. It's fun talking football with them. It's been great, and you don't always get to talk to guys like you guys and Les too. So it's always fun to do that.
It is always fun to talk to Les. He's a friend of the show as well. We're going to have Howie on today at 12:15 this afternoon. We're going to be down at the Novacare complex talking to some unknown players. Who knows who they're going to give to us? But if you had the truth serum out, Chris Franklin, and had one question you could ask Howie Roseman, he's going to tell you the truth. What is that one question?
Oh, that's a very good one. What are your honest feelings about Jalen Hurts? And with nothing right now for is Jalen Hurts going to be here in 2023? Because I really it's enough him and Han. We heard too many times last year. Well, the Eagles sent somebody out to see Deshaun Watson. Well, the Eagles might be linked to Russell Wilson. Well, they have this one. Then they make the trade and they pick up an extra first round pick in case they need to trade it. How much do you really truly believe in Jalen Hurts and not reactionary? And if so, why not say it earlier? I think that's the one thing I really would love to ask him and have him get a true answer right now. Why make all these moves for that? Because I think if he did that, I would love to hear that answer and just hear it out there. Because to make all those moves, they hear him always linked to a quarterback, but you say this is the guy in the future. There's so many questions about that. But
all right, then
if only.
Here's where I'll go with my last question for you, Chris. If you slip that truth serum to the head coach of the football team rather than the general manager, and he had to take it after, say, week 3 of the preseason rather than the throw out the door week 4 preseason game. We only got 3 preseason games, so now it's the third one. Yeah. After the second preseason game, that after taking the truth serum, Nick Sirianni has to actually admit, Carson Strong looked better in practices, in the preseason games. The numbers say he looked better. The ability to judge, this is what the coach does, right? He's a former wide receiver. He can judge quarterbacks, and he has to admit, you're close, but who was better? Carson Strong. Is there any chance Carson Strong plays for the Eagles within the first month of the season?
No, they definitely won't do that. If anything, I think it would be mentioned. Even then, I still think no. I think they give Jalen all the way through till week 12, 13 to give him every chance. And
remember, in the preseason, Jody, they're not even going to play him. If last year, they're going to treat him like Tom Brady in the preseason.
That's why I added and in practice.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
How about those golden? Wait. Do we even know who the Eagles playing against in preseason and practice?
Not yet.
We know Cleveland won. That's the only one.
Well, days of the entire year. They kicked the Jets' ass. They beat up on the Patriots. That was the most important thing.
Yeah, the banner.
Joint practices. Do we not know who they're jointing with today?
The banner is still up, joint practice champion, which, by the way, at least they have a banner because the Sixers are getting no banner. Sorry for
don't
the
get
Sixers
me started
people.
on that.
Joint practice champions. Yes, the Eagles were 4-0 in joint practice.
They have to get, maybe they can get the same guy, the same company that did the whole Indianapolis Colts AFC participant ones. That'll be perfect too. Just have that up there. That'd be great.
Yeah. Well, they were a participant too until it was 31-0 in the playoffs.
Yeah, it was bad.
Do you want him playing Baltimore again this year? I'd like to see Kyle Hamilton in some.
Yeah, I'd like to see Kyle.
They usually try and keep it close. Jets, they go a little out of their range for the Patriots. Baltimore makes sense, and they've done it with Baltimore before. That's who I'm predicting and/or rooting for.
I want to see Kyle Hamilton versus Jordan Davis in a 40. Who wins?
Ooh, that's a good point.
Oh, that is a good one.
Oh, I got a better one. Kyle Hamilton against Nakobe Dean because he hasn't run yet. We're still waiting for Nakobe to put up a 40 time. We got no idea. He might run it in 4-1 or he might run it in 6-1. We don't know. If you believe those who dropped him down in the draft, he's going to run it in 7-1. 40. Come on.
Oh my gosh! The 40 times needs to. I know it needs to go because if a guy plays, you don't run in a straight line and go into 40. I think also recognition makes up for it. The 40 times, it's good for TV, but if I want to watch 40, I go over to pin relays or something like that.
The only 40 time I need to know is Rich Eisen. Did he raise enough money for the charity? That's the only one that matters to me. Chris Franklin, always a pleasure. Feel free to smack Les Bowen upside the head when next you see him and tell him it was from the Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365.
Definitely will. He might punch me out. No, I'm kidding. Thanks, guys.
2 out of 3 falls. I'm taking Franklin over Les Bowen. Sorry, that one's not even close. Chris, thanks, bud. Appreciate it. That's Chris Franklin.
Thanks, guys.
NJ.com. It was.